So I think by now everybody knows the PaleoCon drama with Harvey Weinstein. It got me thinking about the dichotomy between the PaleoCon types and feminists, and made me realize that the reason the PaleoCons see feminists specifically as their sort of natural enemies is because they represent polar opposite ends of the same opinion spectrum. Where PaleoCons are, traditionalist and monogamous, the feminists promote sort of love at all sizes and polygamy. So it does sort of make sense on a surface level why they would dislike each other, but it does still perplex me why you would target them over the people who have forged feminist ideology over the last 60 to 100 years. However, the more I thought about this, the more I thought about a saying I came up with years ago when I was still sort of a leftist, a progressive liberal, not in the way that people are today. I got really disgusted with the whole Antifa side of the left, even when I was a liberal myself. And I used to say to these people, there used to be this leftist meme of, you shouldn't believe in tradition just because we do things this way just because that's the way we've always done it, right? That was how they thought conservatives thought. And of course, that's bullshit. That's a dumb meme, but that is something I still get that shit. Re-Education tried to throw that shit at me on Twitter, so they still pass this meme around. But what I used to say to them was, if you want to be a good progressive, you have to understand the value of tradition, because if you're just going around like tearing down people's traditions and you don't understand what they value in them, you're just being mindlessly destructive, and you're just going to piss everyone off, which is essentially what they've done. Of course, nobody listens. Nobody listens to little old me. But it does, in a sense, work in the reverse as well. If you want to be a good traditionalist, you have to understand the necessity of progress, and I don't mean progress in the sense of accepting every degenerate value that a society throws at you, but you do have to adapt to a changing civilization. Societies do change organically. If I were to refuse to work because I don't like capitalism, the result of that is just that I'm going to starve. And I think romantically, that's essentially what the Groypers have done. A lot of these guys strike me as the sort of nice guy. Remember the nice guy meme? This meme of the guy that puts all of his energy and his thought into being kind and compassionate. People say that's just an aesthetic. No, a lot of guys really do think that that's like the focal point of being a good man, because they don't have any masculine figures in their lives, and so they try to be nice guys, and they don't understand why it doesn't pay off. It makes me think of Elliot Rodger. For all of his fucked up ideas and faults. At his core, Elliot Rodger was a guy who just got fed up with trying. He thought that buying a BMW would get him a woman. It didn't. He thought that being a nice guy would get him a woman. It didn't. Then he thought that maybe being a douchebag would help. It didn't. And trying over and over again. I've heard it said that the only thing worse than having a perpetual problem is not knowing how to solve it. Because then you don't even know how to progress toward a solution. And I think that's the position that a lot of these guys find themselves in. They're guys that think, well, being monogamous is better than being a whore. Being conservative, being reserved sexually is better than going out and contracting a bunch of STDs and degrading the act of sex for yourself and another person to just some hedonistic biological impulse. And all of that's true. But the problem is that if you don't have any experience with women socially and romantically, you don't have much of a chance of ever being married, of having a family. You might have all the greatest qualities of a father, but if you can't attract a woman, you're never going to be a father. And that's a reality that I think a lot of these men don't want to grapple with. And the problem, I think, is fundamentally a lot of young men, whether it's because of decreasing testosterone or a lack of male role models, don't understand what it is to be a man. And if you don't understand what it is to be a man, how can you understand what it is to be a woman, right? There is this sort of twin spirit idea that these are two roles that are made for each other, and you have to fulfill your own before you can attempt to demand that women fulfill theirs. But these are guys that have done what they thought they were supposed to do. And, I've heard it said that dating is something that was invented by homosexuals or for homosexuals. And I can't speak to the historicity of that. It might be the case. But, fundamentally, I think that was at a time when, and again, I'm not an expert, but I think that was at a time when most people who were marrying each other were doing so because they were of a similar social strata and economic class. A doctor would marry a lawyer and so on. And maybe it was based more on these sort of a caste system more than personality. Today a doctor and a lawyer might date, but if they don't have much in common, they're probably not going to get married. And that's just a reality of the situation. I mean, in my opinion, the best resource for understanding women was Patrice O'Neill. You can go listen to old episodes of the Black Phillip Show. And racialists can say whatever you want, man. This is a guy who would take a woman who was spitting venom at him for 5 minutes and turn her around and have her doing cute little voices and flirting with him. In 5 minutes, just turn her from hating him to loving him. That's not something that comes naturally. That comes with experience, and not necessarily sexual experience, but social experience. And so I want to suggest two things. The first is look in yourself before you start looking at the women. Women can be whores online, women can be thoughts, and you can patrol them all day, right? That's not going to help you specifically. You need to help yourself. You need to stop looking at politics and look inward and help yourself before you help others. So, just if you're gonna post about Oswald Mosley, look at Oswald Mosley and look at his stature, his posture, his attitude. What is it that makes him a great man? And try to emulate that. Try to emulate Rockwell. Men who are of a sterner time, made of sturdier stuff. Those are the kinds of guys you want to emulate. And because being a nice guy or being a douchebag, I think is kind of secondary, whether a woman's attracted to that or not. Because at their core, she doesn't want a nice guy and she doesn't want an asshole. She wants a man. You have to be a man. And, that might manifest in many different ways. You might have a different attitude than what you have today, but it doesn't matter. What matters is that you are acting like a man, and that transcends attitude in a sense. It's a mindset, and it's just a way of being, I guess. But the other thing I want to suggest is something that's sort of foreign to us now. But I remember this being sort of widespread, this idea, like in movies even, of people dating before they had sex. Now everybody's just having, feckless romances. But it used to be, you'd date a girl, you'd take her out for dinner, you'd hold hands, you'd kiss. And, I think that can be valuable too. You don't have to have sex with a girl just because you're dating. You can just have a romantic relationship. And because, even just talking to women socially is not going to give you the same experience as a romantic relationship. And I get that you don't want to whore yourself out, or you don't want to have a high body count or whatever. But don't be afraid of that. Don't be afraid. You are in control. You're in control of your own actions. You're in control of how the relationship goes. So don't be afraid to put yourself out there, to talk to women, to get involved with women. It doesn't make you a whore. It doesn't make you a degenerate. It doesn't make you a bad person. What it gives you is the experience to take those great values that you see in yourself, whether you're a nice guy or whatever you've spent years refining yourself into being for a woman, and you are giving yourself the tools and the ability to get the woman you want. Because I see a lot of guys that will just sit by for years and, waiting for the right opportunity to present itself, watching opportunities pass by, and just getting bitter about the fact that they're, in their 20s, maybe even in their 30s, God forbid even in their 40s, and they haven't found a wife, or they've had minimal sexual experience, if at all. These 25-year-old virgins, the longer you wait, man, I'm sorry to tell you this, the longer you wait, the more men have an advantage over you, and this is a hierarchical system, whether you or the feminists want to admit it, and you're just gonna get fucked. You have to compete, man. You have to compete. So look inward, look in yourself. Don't be afraid of women. Don't be afraid of relationships. And yeah, just fucking take it slow. Take it slow. Tell a woman straight up if you get in a relationship with her, I'm not looking for anything sexual necessarily. I want to take this slow because I value my emotional stability. And, I think a lot more women are more receptive to that than you might think. So, thank you, and good night.